Hi there, folks, and welcome to another episode of Talking Faith, where Johnny and I just take a little bit of time in the week to sit down, grab a cup of tea or coffee, and just chat about different things that come to our mind, particularly at the minute. We've been reflecting our way through the Beatitudes, and we're nearly at the end of them. We've not got too many left to go, so thank you for joining us once more, and do make sure you grab yourself your own tea or coffee, that kind of thing. Sit down with us and reflect, and hopefully also enjoy some of the things we've got to think and share today. So without further ado, Johnny, what's the Beatitude that we're looking at today?
Well, we're looking at the Beatitude, blessed are the peacekeepers, for they shall be called children of God. I'm not going to lie, when I was growing up, this was my favourite. I absolutely loved this one. And why was that the case? Because I liked trying to make places a bit peaceful. I think when I was in primary school, I was bullied a wee bit. So when I came to Christianity in my teens, this notion of trying to be somebody that brings about peace, well, that was something that kind of stood out to me a little bit. So I remember when I was a teenager in our friendship circle in school, we had a couple of people that maybe didn't get on. They were friends of friends rather than actually being proper friends with each other. And I kind of viewed myself as the peacekeeper of the group, trying to keep these two people who didn't get on and sometimes actually got quite angry at each other, trying to keep them calm, trying to keep them from shouting or maybe even getting into a physical fight with each other. It was a strange friendship circle, and lunchtimes could be very good when we're spending time together at school, or maybe very bad depending on, well, how these two were having when it comes to their day. So one of which was quite an angry guy, the other guy was quite manipulative, and that manipulative guy kept pushing his buttons and trying to start a fight. So I remembered as I was growing up trying to calm down the situation, trying to maybe take one of them away for a walk, or just do something to make sure that our lunch times were things that were filled with joy rather than things that were filled with maybe even to some degree violence. But if I'm being perfectly honest, being a peacekeeper was difficult because every now and then the peace would stop and suddenly there would be a level of fighting, there would be a level of shouting, and it would be difficult to keep that peace because there was tensions underlying in both their lives that made them just aggravated around each other. And I think that's the problem when we think of the word peace, is, well, at least within our culture, the concept of peace is just this sense of the absence of war, the absence of fighting, a period of tranquility. But really, there's an end point to that. Sometimes something sparks off and the peace finishes. And I was starting to look into scripture when I was in college, thinking, well, what does peace mean when it comes to biblical peace? Because surely it can't just mean this, where suddenly there's an end and there's fighting and there's war again. And as I was looking through the Old Testament and as I was getting to understand the concept of shalom, the word that is used there, actually our understanding of peace gained something a little bit new. Because shalom does mean, the absence of war, but it also means the presence of something greater. What it really means is something becoming complete, a relationship becoming fulfilled. So rather than two people that are kinda just not at war with each other, instead it would bring a notion of two people coming for the better of one another, becoming proper friends and actually helping each other grow and flourish. And that was the notion of shalom when it comes to the Old Testament passages, when it's speaking about even two kingdoms that are at war with each other. When they come to shalom, they put down their arms and they work for the betterment of one another. And I think that's the statement that really stands out to me, this notion that the peace that we should be striving to bring in our relationships with other people, in our community, in the world as a whole, is a peace that's about making the better place for one another, rather than necessarily just stopping violence or just stopping warfare, actually bringing each other together to aim for a better future together. And I think that's what really has been standing out to me as I've been thinking about the notion of peace.
That's more than fair. It's important, I think, for us to reflect on what that looks like for us in our everyday lives, the spaces where we can bring peace, but also bringing people, that notion of bringing people together for more, unified over a joint purpose, and often I think we can see that in our own lives. It's someone that you might not know, or you might not have much connection to, or you might even not like to begin with. When you end up in a joint project together, or you end up working towards the same goal, you can learn to build more of a relationship there than maybe you would have seen before. So how does all this tie into the idea of being children of God? Because that's obviously connected in this verse.
Well, I think the people who were listening to Jesus as he was speaking this out, maybe a couple of things may have came up into their mind. Because the concept of being a child of God, or being a son of God, or a daughter of God, would be very closely linked to some of the Old Testament people who had a very close relationship with God. For example, Abraham, or some of the kings, people that were chosen by God to lead. And what their goal as they were leading was to bring a sense of shalom to either their kingdom or to their group of people or their land in general, was to bring a sense of completeness to that place, peace. And actually, these kings or these leaders, they were called by God because of their relationship, and due to that, the people around them saw that and started to grow with them. So if there was a good king who was working towards God, who was aiming to bring God's peace to the land, people started to actually obey God more and worship God more and come to know him more. But if there was a bad king who did the opposite of that, well, the people just started to rebel and started to walk away from God. And it's this notion that these sons of God, or these children of God, brought people closer to him. And then Isaiah was prophesying of the king that will come in the future, Jesus. And one of the things he said about him is he will be the Prince of Peace. I find that quite an insane notion, the Prince of Peace, somebody that is going to bring about, in his words, a kingdom that will be peaceful forever. And that's the prophecy that comes forward of Jesus, because the leaders of God before couldn't quite bring about this element of peace to its fullest. But when Jesus came, died, and rose again, he opened up that relationship that was maybe just for the few before, those who were leading. He opened it up for all people to have a restored, a complete, a shalom-filled relationship with God, where we who were sinful become pure in his eyes, and now can even go as far as calling him our Father. When we even think of last week, the notion that, we can't see God, but maybe in the future we'll be able to see him, we get to call that almighty, powerful being Father. That is the great message that's coming out when he's calling us children of God, is this notion that the closeness that was once for the few is now for the many. And all people are brought into this great mission, into this great work field to spread the peace of God to all people through telling the gospel of Jesus Christ and through showing people the love that he had for us.
Sweet. Well, I hope each of you found that helpful to reflect on for yourself, on what it means for you to bring peace, to be a peacemaker, to be a child of God, and to reflect on these powerful and important things in your life. So thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you again next week.